Welcome back to Studio 10. Our next guest went from the streets of Los Angeles as a teenage runaway, waitressing at the House of Pies, to the catwalks of Paris, France, working as a model for Chanel, Yves Saint Laurent, and Christian Lacroix, enduring a tragic romance with doomed Def Leppard guitarist Steve Clark along the way.
She has written a book about her amazing journey called Runway Runaway, a backstage pass to fashion, romance, and rock and roll. She's with us today, everybody. It's Lorelei Shellist. Hey, Lorelei.
Hello.
So you ran away from home at 15, and somehow, just a couple of years later, you're in Paris working for Chanel. How in the world does that happen?
Well, I set my intentions to go after my dreams, and I literally drew a geographical map of the places that I wanted to go, which is the reason why I chose modeling as a profession, because I knew that it would be my ticket around the world.
So you grew up where?
In Pacific Palisades, California.
Okay, you were born there, and
not a bad place to run away from, huh?
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about this a little bit during the break, and actually it's more like home ran away from you.
It did. It absolutely did. What happened was my parents, they were going through many breakups between themselves, and they needed to start again, and they decided to move to San Diego. And they announced this to me just before I was going into Pali High at 10th grade, and I said, what do you mean you're moving to San Diego?
Oh, that's fun.
I'm going to be a model, don't you know?
Moving in high school, that's fun.
Come on, Mom,
right?
get inside my head.
Yeah, well, and they knew. I mean, I'd always, my whole life, wanted to be a model, and they had primed me for that. They were in the entertainment business as well, and they were in music. And so, anyway, I rebelled. I said, you know, I'm not going, and I jumped out my bedroom window, and I ran away that summer to prove my point. And when I came back, the house had been sold. Oh, wow. And there was a note on the door that says, please remove your belongings by this date. I had locked my door from the inside. So I came home and the house was completely empty except for my bedroom.
Oh,
did you know where your parents had moved? Did they leave a forwarding address?
Yeah, they did leave a forwarding address. They said, if you don't want to live under our roof, don't expect a dime from us. And I never did.
So you had a very interesting encounter then with somebody who kind of helped you out to start out, and I'm amazed by this. It seems like this would be one of the coolest mentors to have. You mentioned your parents were in the music industry.
Yes.
And Don Henley was one of your first celebrity...
Yeah, celebrity boyfriends.
Yeah.
Well, actually, who was my first boyfriend was Brian Ray, who plays now with Paul McCartney.
Oh, wow.
But back then, he was just, you know, a local town boy,
Session
you know,
musician.
with snakeskin boots and a gold top. And no, but I loved music. I was always, I grew up with music, and lyrics were my big thing. But eventually I did get introduced to Don Henley through an artist that I knew, and it was totally by accident. And he tried to pick me up in the pinball machine room at the Record Plant in Los Angeles when they were recording one of these nights, and he asked me for my phone number, and I said, well, and I'm playing pinball, and I said, well, you know, I don't just give my phone number out to anybody.
Right.
And I was 15,
Henley.
just about to turn 16, and he went like this. He had these aviator sunglasses on, and he slid them down his nose, and he said, what did you say?
Oh.
And after that, it was like, you know, it was a challenge for him. But he finally did get my number by the end of the conversation by promising to introduce me to some photographers that he knew of that could help me in getting my portfolio together, and that's what I wanted.
Well, now wait a minute, Lorelei.
Right?
Did you play pinball with Don Henley eventually, or that was just that never happened?
No, that was Elton John.
Okay.
He was the pinball wizard.
But now, a large part of the book is dedicated to your relationship with Steve Clark from Def Leppard, and boy, he a talented but troubled guy.
Yes.
I had read, and I don't know if this is true or not, but at one point he was found passed out with a blood alcohol level of 0.59.
Yes.
How is that even possible?
Alcohol on top of alcohol on top of alcohol, and he didn't eat a lot at that point.
Right.
He wasn't eating a lot, so you know your body's empty and you're filling it with alcohol. So, yes. Well, what we met in Paris, and it's recounted in the book. I had just started working with the designers, and I was doing really well in my career, and I got a phone call from his manager and said, you know, my boys are coming to Paris, and I didn't want anything to do with that. And I was like, oh my God. And I had been living in Europe so long, I didn't know that all this kind of music was really happening in America, that they were huge in America. I'd never even heard their record.
But their manager wanted you to sort of keep an eye on them.
Kind of babysit.
Yeah. You weren't crazy about doing that at all, though.
No, and I had to convince my roommate to go with me, and she was like, "Oh, please." And I said, "No, come on, we've got to take these guys around." And so our job was to keep them out of trouble. But anyway, they showed up at our door, and when I met Steve at that moment, it was love at first sight, and it was something that I really did not expect to happen. And 3 years into the relationship, though, because he lived in Dublin and they were working on writing the Hysteria album, and I was living in Paris, we were constantly traveling back and forth to visit each other. And so I just always thought he was happy to see me, and we would celebrate with champagne or whatnot. And then by the 3rd year into it, I realized, hang on a minute, we've been together long enough, this is not a party. And I realized he seriously had a problem. And I spent the next 3 years trying to enlighten everyone else and trying to get him to go to AA and things like that. And that's when I discovered my role in the caretaking and the enabling of his situation. And the only thing I realize now is, I wish that I had let go sooner so that he might have hit a bottom. And I write about this in the book, that even that was really not possible because he had so many people around him to pick up the pieces. Right. You have managers and agents and bankers and lawyers and accountants and roadies and everybody doing everything for you. You never really have to feel at the bottom,
right?
And that's why it's harder for people in celebrity positions to hit their bottoms, because they have too many enablers.
Well, Lorelei,
Michael Jackson.
Exactly. You're one of the guests that we could just sit and do a whole hour with, and then some. But get the full story here from Lorelei Shellist. The book is called Runway, Runaway.
Yes.
And you're doing a book signing out at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. You'll be at the lobby bar from 5 to 6
tomorrow, August 14th, right?
Yeah, that is right. Yep.
And Def Leppard in concerts at the Ford Amphitheater.
Right across the road.
There you go.
So you can come and see Lorelei and then go see the band.
There you go. And you can go to runwayrunaway.com to learn a little bit more about the